Have you ever just stopped and wondered, if there's supposed to be one God, then why on earth are there so many different religions? I mean, it's a huge question, right? It causes so much confusion and debate. Well, today, we're going to dive into a theological explanation that offers a really surprising answer to that.
So this is it. This is the big mystery we're trying to unpack. You'd think it would have been a whole lot simpler for God to just lay out one single path for everyone, right from the very beginning. Well, according to the perspective we're exploring today, that's exactly what happened.
So here's the twist. The source material we're looking at actually challenges the whole question. The argument isn't about why there are many religions, it's that God didn't create many religions at all. He only created one.
Okay, now this verse right here is the absolute foundation for this entire argument. But hold on, before we jump to any conclusions about what that word means, we have to look at Islam in its original literal Arabic sense. It's not what you might think.
And this is absolutely crucial. When the source says Islam, it's not talking about a cultural identity or a specific group of people you see on the news. It's defining Islam as a universal action. It's an internal state of being, the simple act of submitting your will to the one who created you.
So the core idea here is that God's message has been the same from day one. It's always been this single, consistent, eternal instruction. It wasn't a collection of different faiths, but just this one simple call: submit to your Creator.
All right, so if the message was always one and the same, the obvious next question is, how did everyone get it? Across all of human history and all over the globe.
This verse helps explain that. The idea here is that divine guidance was never exclusive. The source argues that every single nation, every tribe, every community on earth received this guidance in a way they could understand. No one was left out. And get this, we're not just talking about a handful of prophets you can name off the top of your head. The source material estimates that over 124,000 messengers were sent throughout history. That number is just staggering, and it's meant to show that this message was inclusive, not exclusive. So you see, the argument is that all these well-known prophets, Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, they weren't starting brand new religions. They were all just different links in one single unbroken chain, each one arriving to renew that same core message for their people. And what was that core message they all brought? Well, it was fundamentally the same. Number one, there is only one God. He's unique, no parents, no children, nothing is like him. And the key to it all? True success, true purpose, comes from aligning your life with his will. In other words, submission. Which of course leads us to the million-dollar question. If the message from God was always one, where in the world did all these different religions come from? Well, the answer, according to this perspective, doesn't lie with God. It lies with us. You see, over time, things got messy. Human interference started to muddy the waters. The original revelations were changed, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. Teachings were tweaked to fit the goals of leaders or the customs of a culture. And slowly, local traditions got all mixed in with divine guidance until they were hard to tell apart. And finally, people created new names for themselves, new labels, which just cemented those differences. And this takes us right back to the definitions. Just like Islam is the act of submission, a Muslim is simply anyone who does that act. So from this viewpoint, it has nothing to do with your name, your ethnicity, or where you were born. It's all about your internal state of being, that surrender to the Creator. So if all the previous messages were eventually changed by people, what was God's solution? Well, the source explains it as a series of revelations, one after the other, leading to a final message, one that was designed to correct all the changes and be perfectly preserved for all time. So you have this amazing chain. The Torah was given to Moses, the Psalms to David, the Gospel to Jesus, and then finally, the Qur'an to Muhammad. Each one is presented as a fresh delivery of that same essential guidance. Now, the huge distinction made here is that while those earlier scriptures were for a specific group of people at a specific time and, crucially, were not preserved in their original form, the Quran is positioned as the final message for all of humanity, and it's believed to be divinely protected from any changes forever. And this is where it really clicks for a lot of people. Look at this. On one side, you have the words attributed to Jesus in the Bible, not my will, but the will of the Father. And on the other side, the literal definition of Islam, submission to God's will. The argument is that these are not two different ideas. They are the exact same core principle.
And to build on that point, the source points out that Jesus himself never used the word Christianity. You can't find it anywhere in the Bible. That was a label that his followers came up with much, much later. The point being made is that the prophets taught the action, submission, not the brand names that came after them.
And that brings us full circle, right back to the verse we started with. But now, when we read it, the understanding is completely different. It's not seen as a claim for one cultural group over another, but as a profound statement that the one true acceptable path in God's eyes has always been the simple, universal act of submission itself. So let's just quickly recap the main takeaways from this whole perspective. First, God's one and only religion is the act of submission. Second, this exact message was taught by all those messengers, maybe over 124,000 of them. Third, the different religions we see today weren't created by God, but are the result of human changes over time. And finally, the Qur'an is presented as that last, preserved call, inviting everyone back to that original, universal path. And that really just leaves us with one final, pretty deep question to think about. If we strip away all the labels we give ourselves, the cultural baggage, the historical names, what path are we, you and I, actually on? What is the core principle that's really guiding our lives? That's something powerful to reflect on.